What's up, everybody? This is Mario, and I'm back with another episode of Endurify. And to start off, I got to tell you the backstory of what happened last year before my first ultra marathon. And so this was my first ultra marathon. It was a 50K trail run, which is around 31 miles. And honestly, it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done because I started off in triathlons. I started off with a sprint triathlon and I built myself up to an Olympic and then a half and then the full marathons. But the past few years, I've been, kind of looking for that next challenge. And that's where ultra marathons and really just trail runs come in because I love spending time outside with Emily and with Ellie and hiking. But going for a run, like on a trail in the woods, is amazing. But anyways, I had my first 50K, and even just getting to the location before the race was an adventure. It was a Friday night, and there was a crazy snow and freezing rain storm on Friday. And I had to drive 4 hours from Iowa to Illinois for this race. And so the whole time it was just like white knuckle driving. I'm like super stressed because I can only go like 40 miles an hour on the interstate. And like every move is just like feels like almost our last, right? But I wanted to get to this race and wanted to get to the hotel like the night before so that I could get everything together and relax. So got through that and then got all my stuff together the night before. And then the morning of the race, I wake up and I just like jump up and I look at my clock and I see that it's like 6:45 or 6:50 and the race starts in an hour. So what had happened was my alarm did not go off, or it either went off and I just ignored it because of all of the stress from the night before. So I jumped out of bed. I quickly kind of tried to grab all my stuff together. I head off to the race. Emily drops me off, and I've got like 15 or 20 minutes before the race. And I'm just, as you can imagine, I'm still kind of stressed from the night before. I'm nervous because of the race. I'm frazzled because I didn't wake up in time. And typically I like to get there, an hour before or a little bit more than that, just to kind of get settled and check out the course and things like that. And it was just one of the most stressful experiences before I even took on my first ultra marathon. So like I said, normally I pack my stuff the night before, I head to the race, I get there an hour before, kind of get the lay of the land. And once that race started, I spent the first few miles just trying to focus on the task at hand and not being kind of upset or stressed or frazzled with kind of the chaos that happened right before. And this can have a big impact on your race day performance. And so that's why I'm telling you this story is I did eventually, complete that race through a bunch of struggles, but it kind of highlights the importance of having that pre-race routine. And the reason why that's important is in chapter 12 of The Brave Athlete, we've been talking about strategies to avoid mental errors on race day. And the first strategy that we talked about was focusing on what you can control and controlling those controllables, right? Like your effort, your everyday attitude, your ears, your eyes, things like that. The second strategy that they talk about are developing a pre-race routine. And this is essential to just kind of remain optimally focused on race day. And they went into detail about what are some of the key elements of race day routines and also how to develop your own race routine. So I want to go into that next. So the first element of a good race day routine is a detailed timeline from the time that you wake up to the time that you actually start your race. And what you want to do is you want to list all of the physical things that you need to do to be as prepared as possible. So that's the second element of a good race day routine. So you want a detailed timeline. You want to list all of the physical things that you need to do to be as prepared as possible. Pack this, load this, check this, those types of things. But then the third element is you really want to identify what are the things that are going to make you feel as psychologically and emotionally ready as possible. So this is where things like music and maybe it's meditation for you. Maybe it's these visual cues. What are those things that make you feel pumped up, that get you focused and get you ready for race day? So those are the first three elements of a good race day routine. The fourth is just having a little bit of wiggle room to deal with unforeseen consequences. Sometimes you head to a race and you think parking should take 5 minutes when actually it takes 25 or 30 or more. You need to kind of plan for that. So you don't want it to be so detailed that if you're a minute or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minutes off schedule, then you freak out. So those are kind of the four elements of a good race day routine. Detailed timeline, focus on all of the physical things, focus on all of the psychological and emotional things that you need to do to get ready, and then provide that wiggle room. And with the background of why this is important, where I want to go next is explain how you can set up your race day routine. And that's where I want to go next. So the first thing that you want to do is just get out a piece of paper or get something out on your phone or like a Google Doc and create a headline called Day Before. So this is where, a good race day routine, it starts the day before the race. And below Day Before, you're going to want to have a column that says task and then a column that says time. So the left column should say time, the right column should say task. And this is where you want to list out all of the tasks that need to be complete in order for you to be ready for race day. So then what you want to do is you want to list out what time you need to complete each of those by. And what you want to do is you want to try and work backwards from falling asleep. So if you're going to go to bed at like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, make sure that is listed out at the very end, and then list out what are all of the things that you need to do. You need to get all of your gear together. You need to get all of your nutrition together. You need to load up your bike. You need to get some of the snacks or whatever for after the race, whatever that is for you. Just kind of list out all of those tasks and list out what time you want to complete those by. And like I mentioned before, you want to make sure that you give yourself some wiggle room. And also, I highly recommend asking other people for help with this. So if you have a significant other, if you have a friend, show them what you have and just ask, what am I missing? Because it's the night before your race, you're going to be a little bit nervous. You might be a little bit frazzled. You might not be as on top of it. And that's where just getting another set of eyes really helps. So that's the first part of this, is listing out what are all of the things that you need to do the day before the race. Then after that, you want to create another timeline for race day, an actual race morning. So it's the same thing, having the time and the task. And then instead of working in this scenario, you want to work backwards from actually starting the race. So if your race starts at 7:30 or 8 a.m. or 8:30, work backwards from that and say, what time do you need to wake up? What time do you need to go to the bathroom or drink your coffee or have your breakfast? What time do you need to get to the race? What time do you need to set up all of your bike gear and stuff by? By what point are you just kind of stretching and relaxing and listening to music? So those are kind of the main steps for race day morning. And again, like I said, try and give yourself some wiggle room and also ask for other people for help. So that's kind of the best way to go about creating that day before routine and the day after routine. And just like that, you have your race, pre-race routine, and you can go in there and just follow the plan. I recommend doing this a couple of days before or a week before race day so that you can just come up with this plan. And then when it's the day before and the morning of, you don't need to think about what you need to do or what you don't need to do. Are you doing the right things? Are you not doing the right things? You can just execute the plan that you have put in place, and it's going to give you confidence that you're doing the right things. So just like that, you have your race day routine. And a few kind of other tips that I think are important to mention is, I really want to focus on that psychological and emotional prep. I mentioned like music might be something that inspires you or motivates you. Maybe you can put together a playlist that puts you in the zone, and you can listen to that on the way to the race or during your warm up. You really want to try and figure out like what are those things that can emotionally get you going. Another thing you could do is you could have friends or family write you letters about, kind of what, and that way those letters that they write you, that's going to inspire you and get you excited about what you're going to accomplish. And it's going to set you up for success when you deal with a challenging part of the race. And then one other thing that I want to highlight is, you kind of want to develop those cues to transition you from the regular roles that you have of parent, spouse, or caretaker to athlete, right? So in the past, we've talked about when you put on that wetsuit or when you put on your bike gear, that's like the start, and that's the beginning of you taking on that alter ego of somebody who is going to accomplish the goal no matter what gets in the way. So those are just a few other tips that I wanted to highlight with that pre-race routine. And that's kind of what I have for you today. And really now it's your time, and I want to bring it back to you. So go ahead and create your pre-race routine with the day before, with the night before. And even if you don't have a race coming up, maybe you can apply these same principles to create a new morning routine before you go to work, right? Because the same concept applies. What are all of the things that you want to accomplish? What are the times that you're going to do those by? And what are those things that you need to do physically? What are those things that you need to do to set yourself up psychologically and emotionally for success before the day? So that's what I have for you today. I hope that served you, and I hope you all have an amazing day.